Hi, folks. Welcome to another episode of Film Study. This is Ken McCusick. We're back here for part two of the defense here, talking about the Ravens' win over the Bengals on Sunday in Cincinnati. Great win for the Ravens. And here talking about the defense with me is Denard Melton of the Fire Zone Show. Denard, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Always good to talk football on a good team win.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I really appreciate you in the first episode, all the football knowledge you bring as a player and a lot of the specific defensive angles. You are perfect for this show. I'm sure that would go well for the offense as well, because you could talk about how that would relate to playing defense. But a lot of the things about tackling, there were some elements about matchup zone and how that's defined and how the responsibilities are apportioned out. Some good stuff in that first episode. Please give that a download if you haven't already. And we're going to talk about some individual players in this second part of the show.
Absolutely.
All right. So you're the guest, Denard. I always say you go ahead. You lead us off here with the player you really want to talk about.
So for me, I will start in the back end. Geno Stone has impressed me greatly on what he has accomplished in these first two games. I think he's trusting his eyes again. He's playing well. He's playing downhill. He's playing physical. I think there was a comment made in the first game where he wasn't talking as much as Marcus Williams. I think in the second game, you can tell he was more involved in the game plan. He understood the checks. And you can tell they were all on the same page and very vocal throughout the whole thing. So I was very impressed with what he was doing in that game on Sunday.
Yeah, impressed about so many things about his play on the field. And I thought, we mentioned this in the first show, but it's always bears a little bit of overlap is fine. He's drafted coming out of Iowa for those instincts. He's faster, plays faster than his 40 time, I should say, because his instincts are so good. That's often the case for back end safeties, and we better hope it's true of Kyle Hamilton as well, in terms of a guy who can get to the spot because he reads it much better. His eyes did not deceive him against Joe Burrow on the interception, which was really nice. He got to the right spot on the field. It wasn't, the Bengals were essentially running a lot of that concept to try and deceive Geno Stone into making the wrong read. And he didn't do it because he wasn't following the play. In some ways, I look at that and it's like, one thing they say about good poker players is they're generally wasting their fancy plays on weak poker players, because weak poker players can't even understand what they're trying to make them believe.
Right.
And so this play was so complex that it was dependent on Geno Stone biting on Chase on that inside leverage. And first of all, Geno Stone misread it because he was looking directly at Burrow the whole time, which is,
he understood what the play was. So he probably even said something to Stevens before the play. It was like, you're locked. I'm not even going to look over there. Like, my eyes are on Joe. That's it. You're over there by yourself. Good luck. Ed Reed was very famous for that nonsense.
yeah, he would do whatever he wanted on the field. But that's the other thing I love about Stone is his Reed-esque qualities. Now, I don't use those terms lightly, but what I like in a safety, particularly free safety characteristics, are the willingness to play a loose bracket, to constantly be looking for the overthrow, undercut when necessary, read the quarterback, try and figure him out. And basically, a lot of times, just try and do the thing you think is going to fool the quarterback. And I don't know that he really did that in the interception, but I'd say Geno Stone is the ultimate loose bracket safety. He plays for the overthrow. We've seen that in the preseason. We've seen it other times in his career, that he tends to be in the right place over top of the receiver in case something goes wrong with that throw or on a contested catch with the underneath player.
Absolutely. I think most safeties, I think a lot of college safeties have been taught the opposite.
Go to the body.
And I think that's why the game has suffered a lot, and trying to find safeties to come into the league has been a lot tougher. I think that's kind of trickled down to linebacker play a lot lately. They kind of go hand in hand. They lose their instincts. They think they have to be in the spot right now. But if you're talented enough, you bait people. You set things up. You may be late on something. If it's not like a huge gain, it's okay to be late, because guess what? The next time that quarterback's going to be thinking about it, and what he's going to do, he's going to rush it, and what's going to happen? He's going to airmail it just enough.
That'd be perfect.
Just perfect. And you played it exactly where you want to be. And that's why a lot of safeties don't get interceptions on over-the-top plays.
Mm-hmm.
They don't get safe. They get plays when they're coming downhill, when their eyes tell them, I win. Mm-hmm. And when your eyes say you go win, go get the football. It's mine. I'm taking it home with me.
And this was one of those on a nice undercut from Stone that really worked out that way. Stone plays for the overthrow. He can also play for the garbage when the ball's up in the air for whatever reason. He's a great second man to the ball player. Mm-hmm. And the Ravens are just lucky as hell. They have a replacement. It's not luck. I mean, it really isn't. It's the skill of drafting a player like Geno Stone in the 7th round, letting him get away, and then getting him back. That really worked out for them.
Absolutely. He's been the rock when they've needed him the last couple of years. And credit to him for trusting the process and being a part of the solution and not the problem.
Great to have him leading the special teams. I'm hopeful that he can be a long-term Raven, where he's kind of the ideal combination of a great special teams player and leader who also can contribute something defensively. In his case, it's kind of a lot defensively, which is unfortunately, if he plays a lot of the season in place of Marcus, I'm afraid he's going to get 3 years, $9 million somewhere to play free safety, and he's not going to be a Raven anymore. But if he only plays, 4 games this year or something, and the Ravens obviously don't have, the Ravens are going to have Peters and Hamilton. There's reasons, Hamilton and Williams. So there's going to be reasons why they won't have him on the field, but other teams may look at that and say, I'm just not sure if he's the right guy for us, or if we want to pay a lot of money for him, because they won't maybe have seen enough. But I would love if he could be one of these perpetual Ravens on rolling 2-year deals, like a new 2-year deal with a bonus every 2 years to keep him as the special teams captain for, say, another 4.
Yeah. I feel like he's kind of important on the punt protection. I think he's taken over the Levine role and really settled into his role on this football team, which it's very important.
And we say that the day after they give up a long special teams punt return, but it's not usual for this team. And I think that was more Simpson than anybody else as I watched the play. So
it was a Simpson and a block in the back that.
Yeah, they picked up the flag. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
How many times in your life have you seen him pick up a block in the back?
Zero.
Flag? Yeah,
0. Because you saw it in real time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and they don't ever do that. If they do it with a pass interference call, they've got another good reason for it, like the ball was overthrown and untouchable or something like that. Mm-hmm. That's not the case with a block in the back flag.
No. It's no gray area. He pushed him.
Yeah.
He pushed him twice.
Now, somebody also made the point online. We're talking about Geno Stone, but the cutback on the inside on the interception, he left a lot of yards on the table, by the way. Got directed out of bounds by Ajabo's flattening of Burrow on the sideline. And
he could have got about another 30.
Probably. That's a lot of yards.
Yeah. I mean, they did go down and score a touchdown, so it was kind of like,
I can't judge it just by the results. I see it as really bad. Haloti Ngata, in his first NFL game, had the interception on the pop-up ball. He catches it in level 2, runs it around the end for 60 yards. Great introduction to Haloti Ngata in his very first NFL game. And he got down to the 9-yard line. He's clearly out of gas at this point, but there was also a similar block in front of him. to knock somebody out of bounds, and he just allowed himself to get directed out of bounds at that point. And after the game, Billick appropriately let him have it about it. He goes, no, he's got to find a way to get in the end zone there. And the Ravens, with their 2006 style offense, even with McNair at quarterback, who was an upgrade, managed to get 3 points from the 9-yard line.
Yes, of course. Yeah, big man got tired. Big man's left leg didn't want to plant and go back inside.
There you go. That was probably, it was that left sideline. Really nice downhill plays by Stone. Might have gotten overlooked in this game, but 3 defensive wins out of. He led the team with 9 tackles, 3 of them defensive wins. And I'll say, for a free safety, very unusual that you get 3 opportunities to make tackles on defensive wins. Normally your tackles are coming multiple yards off the line of scrimmage, where you're going to allow that tackle, still allowing the offense to either convert a first down directly or stay on schedule, as the defensive win is not allowing them to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he played very well downhill. He had really 2 huge plays, and could have been a third if, I wish his football sense would have kicked in once Burrow recalled the tight end motion.
Yeah, Irv Smith, right?
Yeah, when he recalled him and told him to come back, the alarm bell should have been going off, like, speed out. Like, the bells should have been going off. But other than that, he played very well.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And Burrow threw that ball crappily enough. Yeah, he underthrew that ball, so it was an opportunity for Smith to at least make the tackle for no gain.
Yeah,
which would have been all they needed in that situation. But it was an unfortunate play. I was so happy with his overall play in this game. I've got no complaints about what happened. No. Clearly, the Ravens, I would say, their second best defender. So why don't I jump on and talk about who I think was the top defender for the Ravens, and that's Jadeveon Clowney. The Ravens didn't get a ton of pressure all day, but when the Bengals tried to set up some longer routes in the second half, when they were trying to do anything but throwing the ball quickly to the outside, which the Ravens found were fairly effective defending that. Jadeveon Clowney was the guy who more often than not initiated the pressure. So I have him, as we talked about in the first episode, with 5 full pressures of his own. 1 quarterback hit / PD. So he hit the arm of Burrow, ball went floating up into the right side. Stone was the only guy within 5 yards of that ball when it dropped. And that was a thing of beauty. If Stone had picked that off, that would have been something special. But then he also had the sack. And that was a great, missed the initial swipe, came back when Pierce beat his double team to phone booth that pocket and closed the deal. Just been so impressed with what Clowney has done in 2 games so far.
Yeah, I've been very impressed with how he's brought the physicality that this team has missed defensively. Would have missed without, Calais Campbell and a McPhee type. He brings that type of physicality that is necessary in a football game. And he's blown away my expectations so far. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things, a lot of his success in this game was against the left tackle. I mean, some on both sides, but he did have a lot of success against the left tackle, who was our old friend Orlando Brown. Sitting there, we didn't really talk about him much in the game, but Orlando Brown, I didn't think he played particularly well, and PFF obviously thought he was a lot better than I did because I charged him with a bunch of these bull pressures that he had against Brown, basically to compromise the cone. On these plays. We talked a little bit about this, but Burrow's got to be able to step into his throw with confidence to get anything on it. But we've already kind of hypothesized in this first episode that Burrow's leg injury may be holding his velocity down even more than his really mediocre arm strength to start with.
Yeah, I think the injury is definitely affecting him. Kind of questions. I guess I get why he tried to play through it, because the opening of their season was 2 divisional games and you didn't want to get behind the 8 ball. Now you're behind the 8 ball and your quarterback possibly is going to be out 3 to 6 weeks to let that re-heal.
Did we hear something today? Because
I've seen a couple things. I don't think it's been conclusive, but there's been a re-injury And I think they're saying multiple weeks. It's a possibility. Depends on how he responds to treatment this week.
Well, this is kicking when they're down time here. We need to see the Bengals go about 1-7 to start the season. If there's a chance of that happening, I think it would be a good thing. It would, potentially the Bengals get a better draft pick out of this, and that is something to be concerned about legitimately within the division. But the payoff is too great in terms of potentially getting them off the table in a very balanced division, very scary and balanced division.
Yes, I'm a little. I'm curious to dig in more into the Browns because their defense is interesting, to say the least. I'm interested to watch it. I'm not bought and sold yet.
Yeah.
No. It is Cleveland, and their secondary always seems to disappear. But,
Now we're recording this at 11:35 p.m., but I've recorded 2 games here for watching after this. So nobody's supposed to tell me anything about what's happening. And one is the Oriole game, and one's the Monday Night Football game. So I just want to make sure.
I don't know the score either, so don't worry about it.
I appreciate that. Anything else to say about Jadeveon Clowney? I guess it's your turn. Go to give us another player you want to talk about.
I would like to talk about Patrick Queen. He had an outstanding game. I think he played well against the run. I would have liked him to be a little bit better in terms of coverage in the middle of the field, but his tackling is 200% better than it was last year.
Mm-hmm.
His idea of football is 200% better than it was last year. He's fewer of those weird mistakes are showing up. It's few and far between now. He'll have a glitch every once in a while, but that happens to all of us. And he has taken on this mentality of, I am better than any other running back on the field, and no, I can cover anything. And it's refreshing, it's enlightening, and it's good to see a guy who I felt all along was going to be very good once he got the experience. And now it's all coming together. And like you said earlier in the other episode, is he's not going to be a Raven next year.
Right.
Because there's no way in hell you're going to pay 2 linebackers over $18 million. This is not going to happen.
That's okay. It really is. I mean,
really
wish Patrick Queen the absolute best. And obviously it plays in the Ravens' favor if he gets paid Roquan money next year,
Mm-hmm.
or anything close to it for that matter, in terms of what kind of a compensatory pick they'll get. But the Ravens are going to lose a lot of UFA talent, whether or not they have big years this year.
That is
and
true.
They may as well have big years and get a little bit more talent coming back in the future to the Ravens because of this. It's also, we have this discussion every once in a while on the show, but great drafting teams and teams that have a continual pace of outstanding young talent. And the Ravens consistently show up on the lists of having the most players in the NFL who start within their system. They're always near the top of that list. Teams like that have to make heartbreaking cap decisions year after year after year to let quality players go.
Yeah, and it's a balancing. And now that we're in a new era here in Baltimore where we're a little more offensive friendly because we've paid our quarterback handsomely. We've given him some targets. Money going to have to be redirected. And, unfortunately, that's going to take some pieces away from the defense. But you got to keep drafting well. You got to keep developing. You got to keep coaching. Mm-hmm. And I hope they keep coaching. I think that's the most important thing. Keep coaching.
We haven't really talked about this, but the value of position coaches right now is at such a premium. I was very enthused that they brought in Chuck Smith to mentor the pass rushers, and really makes sense with a couple of guys like Owe and Ajabo, who are both still very raw. Ajabo came out of school with a little bit of a toolkit, but he's mostly an athletic toolkit more than he's got everything figured out. Owe, still a whole bunch of raw athleticism there, even in year 3. And unfortunately, he's been asked to do a bunch of different things, and it's still going on now, where I wish they would get him over that left tackle every single down like they did with Terrell Suggs and let him figure out the pass rush component first.
Yeah, I blame that on Bowser.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, no harm or foul to Bowser. I think he's a good player, but without him, Owe is the tool belt. He's the Swiss Army knife. He's got to do everything that Bowser would be doing. So it's no fault of his. He's going to eventually get his time to shine out there in the end, and him and Clowney are going to have love and affection this year at getting to the quarterback. We're just not going to see it until Bowser's back.
Now, here's one of the interesting stats from yesterday. Clowney rushed the quarterback 32 times, but he also dropped the cover 5 times.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to tell you, 5 out of 37 is 13.5%. Clowney's career drop rate coming into this year was 3%. Now, I'm not saying one game, one very small sample means all the difference, but I think that the fact that that Clowney has dropped so far is a pretty strong so often is a pretty strong indication that McDonald really believes he needs the flexibility of the pass rush to bring people from other places to try and get a quick pressure. And he's willing to pay the price of giving up not only a good pass rusher, but also something in coverage by having Clowney back there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's great that Clowney is accommodative of this system. He's obviously getting plenty of pressure opportunities himself.
Yes.
But Bowser on a per snap basis coming into this year had 10 times more often dropped to coverage. And when you get Bowser dropping to coverage, you're getting a high end coverage guy.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. He's a dream in coverage.
Mm-hmm.
And I was mad a couple years ago when we finally figured out he can cover tight ends, and then we stopped. For weeks, we didn't let him cover a tight end. It was unbelievable. But yes, he's great in coverage. Fantastic.
By the way, a lot of people don't know this, I don't think, but Bowser's had a really good sack rate career because he has a much lower denominator of total times rushing the passer. So his sack rate career is 1.7%, which is good. It's not unbelievably good. There's a number of players out there in the National Football League who have that kind of a great, and the guys who typically would have 8 or 9 sacks in a typical year if they're doing that. Jadeveon Clowney, only 1.3% career in terms of his sack rate as a percentage of pass rushes. So really tells you something about just how valuable an all-around player Bowser has been for this football team.
Yeah, totally. And if he comes back healthy, it's just another gear up front.
Really excited about that.
Yeah, very excited.
All right, so let's see. Who do you were talking about Queen? Did I have anything else I want to say about Queen? Yeah, good game for Queen in terms of here's the thing I liked, and I'd like to hear your opinion on this as an ex-linebacker. Is I thought his recognition on the swing passes in front of him, pretty much in terms of everything in front of him, in terms of pass coverage, is very good. Even you could even look at Geno Stone, and you talked about his inability to be quick enough with the motion of Irv Smith on the one first down that he allowed effectively. But I thought Queen extremely quick getting on that running back, and I thought it must have been a point of emphasis in terms of what they were coaching this week.
Yeah, they understood that. We've talked about it so many times that Joe, like Burrow, just likes to dump it in the flat. And if you're not attacking that, that's an easy 8 yards. And that gets the offense on schedule. It gets them on rhythm. The Ravens made the not the sacrifice, but basically saying, we're not going to hold our zone. That back flip.
With the busy fall season already in swing, you might be looking for wholesome, convenient meals for jam-packed days. Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit, can help you with fast, chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. You'll save time, eat well, and stay on track with your healthy lifestyle. If you're too busy this fall to cook but want to make sure you're eating well, then get Factor. This is what I did. We were moving, packed up all my dishes, everything needed better meals. I signed up for Factor. It's best meals, probably the healthiest I've eaten in a month, thanks to these Factor meals. Because with Factor, you can skip those extra trips to the grocery store and the chopping, the prepping, the cleanup, all while still getting flavor and the nutritional quality you need. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are ready in just 2 minutes, so all you have to do is heat, enjoy, and then get back to crushing your goals, which for me was trying to move. But now I can't. I need them for work at lunch every day. They're perfect. So this September, get Factor and enjoy eating well without the hassle. Simply choose your meals and enjoy fresh, flavor-packed meals delivered to your door. Ready in just 2 minutes. No prep, no mess. So head to factormeals.com/Ravens50 and use that code Ravens50 like I did to get 50% off. That's Ravens50 at factormeals.com/Ravens50 to get 50% off your Factor meals. As a bettor, you demand perfection, and MyBookie delivers. NFL, college football, and a brand new cash-out system gives you options to bet and win all season long. If the first 2 legs of your parlay hit, cash out early and use those funds for another bet, or let it all ride for a chance at an even bigger payday. Join the MyBookie family for an entire season filled with odds boosts, free bets, and super contests. This season, MyBookie has a no-strings-attached cash bonus that lets you deposit and withdraw quick. Use the promo code RAVENS on a deposit of $50 or more, and you can receive up to $200 in cash instantly to your MyBookie account. Bet your deposit amount once, and you're ready to cash out at any time. Again, that's promo code RAVENS to claim your cash deposit bonus. You can bet anything, anytime, anywhere, only with MyBookie.
Players, go get him. Close the gap right now because you know the ball's going to him. Let's limit the damage to 2 to 3 yards. And they did a fantastic job of that all day.
Lots of plays for 2-3 yards and under. They had some zeros. They had a couple negatives, I think, even on pass plays to the outside. So that was beautiful. So you had Patrick Queen. How about I go next here if we're ready to move on?
Yep.
Okay. How about Michael Pierce and the game he had? I thought he was dominant in the middle of the field. In fact, one of the things that kept showing up in our notes was how effective he was at dealing with double teams, run and pass. So I'll pick one in particular that I really loved. So he stood up to a double team on one play that was just an RM2 that Queen ended up making the tackle. And a lot of interior run defense is very unglamorous because you're denying space and somebody else is making the play. And it's just the nature of the job, frankly. That's also the case with pocket compression. And let's see, the big play he had was on the S-6. He was double teamed by the right guard Kappa and the center Karras. Again, it's a little bit of an Abbott and Costello return between this year. They're not the two top guys in any gap around the NFL, but they're still two NFL players. And he created a phone booth on the pocket such that when Clowney made his first swipe by with his right hand, forced Burrow up a little bit in the pocket, he was right on top of the backs of his two offensive linemen, had to reset his feet, and by that time Clowney had recovered and made the sack.
Absolutely. Michael Pierce came out this year and you can tell he's been on a mission to rectify the last couple years. Him coming into camp last year, a little bit overweight, caused his injury. He knows this organization. He didn't want to leave a bad taste. He came back this year. You can see the Michael Pierce from a few years ago before he went to Minnesota. That was at best unblockable in a double team. And the way this team, if him and Travis Jones can continue to do what they do on first and second down run, I don't have to bring a seventh or an eighth guy in the box. I'm not even thinking about an eighth guy right now. I can control the run game with six. And,
the great Ravens teams, they've always done exactly that. They could stop the run with six because they had great players at each of those three important position groups. They had great players at defensive tackle, Haloti Nada, Tony Siragusa, Adams, all the guys they've had great defensive tackles. It's a litany. Kelly Gregg. They had great defensive edge players in Suggs and Jarrett Johnson in particular, fantastic run defenders. And then they had Ray Lewis. And they had Bart Scott. And they've had other inside linebackers who knew how to tackle even when they didn't have those two guys. And it's been one of the hallmarks of the team that kept all those yards per carry very low for them all the years was they could always stop the run in 11 personnel with 6 guys.
Yeah, and knowing you're going to get duo blocks up front, and knowing that the linebacker behind you is they're coming forward and not catching, which is the most important thing, and it helps the D tackle make plays because the linebacker engages after the duo blocks. He comes up and engages. If he's coming to the A gap, he's engaged in the center. Now that D tackle has a little more leverage to slip his B gap to make the play.
Yeah, if so, let's talk about that a little bit because that's some great inside football there. But it's not dissimilar to an under guy on a stunt who comes between two. They each get kind of a 45-degree angle if it's done properly, and then when one has to peel off, and that's the linebacker you're talking about coming into that other gap, then that other player is very much advantaged in his 45-degree angle block against that first player.
And that's why D tackles love playing in systems like this. Yes, I have to do some dirty work initially, but if I got stud linebackers behind me, I'm going to make plays, and I'm going to make big plays because it's going to be 1-yard losses, or that's where the strip fumbles come from, because maybe the running back doesn't notice that you've now shot your B gap because he's got eyes on the middle linebacker, and that's who he's got in the duo concept. He's cutting off the middle linebacker, so maybe he loses you in the window. Boom, you get free because the linebacker shot the gap. It's run defense early in the season. If you are humming out of camp and your run defense is stout, it's hard to lose your run defense during the year. It's very hard. It's sometimes extremely hard to find it, but it's not hard to. It's very hard to lose it if you continue to do what you're supposed to do up front and with your linebackers.
One more point I want to make about Pierce before we move on is he did have a bull pressure against Orlando Brown directly late in the game, Q4 407. So it's pretty much right up against when they were scoring their last touchdown. But on that play, there's an overthrow in the back of the end zone of Smith, who had pretty good coverage from Stevens on that play. I can kind of picture the play in my mind, but I'm having a hard time probably describing it. I watched the two of them go at it. And I remember when Orlando Brown first came into the National Football League, let's say his weight was distributed a little bit differently. He was also heavier at the time. Now he measures about 345, weighs in. Apparently they're not trying to hide it with Pierce now, or maybe they still are, and he's bigger than that, but they have him listed at 355 now. I know he was Cleveland was listed at 370 last year, so maybe they're a little bit less concerned about reporting a player's weight more accurately. I felt like they're kind of penalizing Cleveland for it last year. Was part of what they had done was to kind of teach them a lesson. Look, we're gonna put your real weight out there, and other teams are gonna know what a fat ass you were when you came into camp.
Right.
But Pierce, he's a monster. He moves people as that great leverage, a low pad level, and whatnot you want from a 6 foot tall man, which is oftentimes a great height for a defensive tackle.
Yeah.
But seeing him run into Orlando Brown and knowing those guys are only 10 pounds different in weight, Orlando Brown looks like a rail thin left tackle now relative to Pierce.
Well, you gotta get ready for your rap career, right?
Yeah. I didn't realize he was on that. He was in the McKinney group, is he?
Yeah, he's that's why he's no longer a Raven. Let's be real.
All right, well, fair enough. Anything else about Pierce? You want to pick another player?
I'll pick one more. I don't think a lot of people talked about it, but Kyle Hamilton has played very steady the first 2 weeks, in particular in this game against Cincinnati. He was asked to be the safety valve and allow Geno to use his instincts and be more of a downhill guy. Takes away from what Kyle Hamilton does best, which is coming downhill, but it also tells you more about the player who's understanding this is what I need to do to make this team successful. I'm willing to do that. And I think we need to give him his flowers and saying, without him on the back end, Geno Stone would not be able to do what he was able to do. The corners could not play the way they could play without having that gentleman roam in the back end and not being tested all day. He had one mistake. I don't know if it was his fault or Roquan's on the dig late in the fourth or late in the third on the Bengal drive where it was an important third down and they faked the blitz and they pulled out, and all three players, Roquan, Kyle Hamilton, and there was another Raven, might have been Queen, they were all in the same place, and the wide receiver did an end route behind them, and it was just kind of gobbled. It was like too many people in the wrong spot. But other than that, it was steady play, and Hamilton has been very good over the first two games of the season.
Yeah, I've been thrilled. I think his move to the back end has really worked out. I'm not saying he can't be more impactful on the front end, but in this game, you hit on it directly when you said the whole rest of the defense. He made the whole rest of the defense better with his presence on the back end. So he's playing back end cover two. Kyle Hamilton is normally the guy you move wherever you want him to get the matchup nightmare you want. If you want to move him up to rush the passer, you do that. If you want to move him into the box to play a short zone, whatever you might want from him, he's a looming presence there and has value. If you want him to, cover a tight end, they did that once in this game. They put him up in a big nickel formation to line him up against a tight end. You could do that. But for the most part in this game, he just played the back end of cover two. It's a very quiet responsibility, and yet he still found time to make one of the biggest plays of the game, which was when he made that open field tackle on Irv Smith. So the Ravens rushed 7 on that play. So they've only got 4 guys in coverage.
Yes.
Yeah. And he's out in the open field, takes Irv Smith down by the ankles for a gain of 6 when it's 3rd and 11, and they have to punt the ball with only 10 and a half minutes to go. That was one hell of an important play in this football game. And
it was the biggest play of the game. He misses that tackle, he scores.
Pretty good chance he goes.
I mean, he had the one corner who was there, but the receiver was there, so it'd have been a dogfight.
Yeah,
to get to the end zone.
Yeah, it definitely would have set them up with at least a very much shorter field for a touchdown on a drive where they didn't get one, which would have totally changed the nature of the game. The Ravens would have had to be gearing up on offense to try and score, and that would have been a lot more difficult. But yeah, big play. Maybe I'll pick just one more too then, and we'll have a few minutes left for questions here at the end. If you want to think about your 3-2-1 MVPs, Denard, I know I didn't mention that to you earlier, but if you want to, I'm going to go through that, and if you want to play along, that's great. Who else did I want to talk about? Travis Jones, I'll talk about briefly. You mentioned earlier that Travis had looked really good against the run, I thought, in this game, and unfortunately, he's going to be remembered for the one play where he got dragged, I'm using air quotes, on that 1-yard run. It was really a 1-yard run stop by him where the entire offensive line got behind them. And the Ravens really did a lousy job on that play of rallying to the football, and they allowed those guards or the guard in the center to push the pile way down the field. And Travis Jones is hanging on for dear life and did not ever give up, to his own credit. But really, that's on the other Ravens defenders for not getting there and sticking their head in and trying to either you go attack the guard or the center who's pushing the pile, or you get behind on the other side of that pile yourself. And I thought he played very well. And I'm waiting for the time. I think Travis Jones is a wonderful penetrating pass rusher. Matabike so far has been quite frustrating in terms of his play this year. And I think make all the sense in the world. If you're going to have Pierce on the field on 3rd down and you don't have the number of outside linebackers to kick one inside, go ahead and use Jones as a 3-tech. And let's see what that guy can do. Monster on lesser man that would get things done.
I can definitely see that. I can also see them possibly kicking Matabike out to a 5 and just kind of spelling, because he can handle it for spot duty to give you a good outside rush. It might help him free his mind up a little bit too and stop picking up these stupid penalties that he's picked up.
Yeah, so he's had, let's see, it's been one defensive hold. In the first week, it was all about his hands being in the wrong place because hands on the mask, players you can coach. That's like one job to kind of coach them out of that. The defensive holding, that's him trying to get away with something. Because he's using the old Casey Hampton trick to like take two offensive linemen out of the play with each hand. But the roughing the passer penalty, he should just know better. I mean, he really has to know better this week. It's not like he hasn't had experience with some of it in his own past. I also thought the Ravens actually got very lucky that Queen was not flagged for the roughing the passer penalty late in the game.
Burrow dove, and the referee was standing right there when he did it. And he was waving his hands like, "Oh no! I saw that."
It was very late though that Queen came up.
He shouldn't have been around him. That's for sure. Don't put yourself in bad situations like that, kids.
Nothing good happens after midnight outside.
Yeah, nothing good happens. No, my mom said nothing good happens after 10 o'clock. Yeah. So double digits, say nothing good could happen.
All righty. You ready to move on to MVPs? You have anybody else you want to talk about?
No, right. I'm ready to move on. Just I'll follow your road.
You're number 3 guy. You're number 3 guy for the defensive MVP in this game.
Number 3 guy. I will go with a little bit of shocker here, but I would say we didn't talk about him, but Washington.
Okay.
I think he played a pivotal role of allowing Hamilton to play a pivotal role in the back.
Oh, you're saying Ardarius Washington.
Ardarius Washington.
Yeah.
Yes. I think he played a very solid nickel. I think he allowed other players to not be out of position. He filled his role well. Yes, he's 5'8" against 6'10"
Higgins, yeah.
T. Higgins.
Yeah.
And, if you have your regular corners back, that's probably Kyle Hamilton on T. Higgins in that situation. So other than that, I think he played very well. He's what you're getting from him. Physical dude who's going to come up and make plays, and he's going to be around the football, and he's going to tackle. That's what he did, and he did it well.
Yeah, we've loved what he's done these first couple of weeks, in particular in week 1. I thought he had a little bit of difficulty, but Ronald Darby had the same difficulty with Higgins. Higgins is just a matchup problem for anybody, even a tall corner. He's kind of a matchup problem for. So, you kind of live with it. He's almost, in a lot of ways, Higgins is almost like a tight end in terms of his ability to body, because his arms are so long. He has such a big catch radius that he can catch the ball and make you look like a 7th grader trying to defend him with your length of arm. Yeah, I mean, it's just okay. I'll move on. My number 3 guy, Patrick Queen. Good game. Patrick Queen had one really bad missed tackle, and I was kind of hoping you had noticed it or wanted to talk about it. But Patrick Queen did not extend his arms to tackle. He went full in shoulder on the right sideline on Jamar Chase on one play, and he whiffed very badly. It was his only really significant miss of the game. He did get, charged is probably correct, but I wouldn't say it's a really bad play when he's the underneath guy on a zone play that went for 20 yards, which was one of the only decent plays the Bengals had the whole day. But it was an 11 plus 9 in the middle. It's not the end of the world, certainly, right, that would happen. But otherwise, really good down in downhill coverage, really good against the run when he had to be. And I thought this was one of Patrick Queen's better games.
Absolutely. I remember that tackle, and he did it, and you shouldn't do this, but he had help. So he was taking the Superman approach to see if he could knock Chase out or get the ball out, knowing that he had help, which is why you play zone, because sometimes you can take those chances when you have help.
As a linebacker, don't you typically want to let the guy behind you have the shot with the second man of the ball opportunity, and you make the sure tackle? Or
no, I want the glory.
You want to knock that. If I have responsibility for you as a pass rusher, as a coach, as a whatever it might be, I want you going for the football. I think the club has been proved to go for the whole thing, and I'll take some missed sacks because of it. But at a linebacker on the outside, I'm not willing to.
No, you better make the tackle.
Yeah,
but I want the ball too.
Okay, very good. So, cake and eat it too. Got it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we do at linebackers.
Who's your number 2 guy?
We want it all. That's why we play linebacker. We can play against the run. We can play against the pass. We're the best athletes on the field.
He's convinced of this. So we're not going to tell him.
We're the best football players on the field. Let's think about it. We got to be good at two different things. If we're not going to be on the field. A wide receiver can be a great streak runner. He can be on the field for 80 plays. All I do is running streaks. Quarterback can just be a good deep ball thrower. We have one of those for 10 years here.
All right, fair enough. Who's your number 2 guy as the defensive MVP?
My number 2 guy is Geno Stone. I think we've praised him a lot on this show. I think he has stepped up and really taken control of his room right now. I think he's the veteran in the room, and I think he showed and stepped up against Cincinnati, where he's probably had a few nightmares back there, and I think he stepped up and played very well.
That room now has got some incredible veteran talent in there. Duron Harmon now added to the room in the last week, and he is one hell of a football player. I'm actually surprised that he's available at this point, because a lot of teams need free safeties, and free safety, that skill set is just not as common. And you know it when any team talks about their versatile safeties, they could be up, they could be back. It probably means they're both strong safeties.
Yes.
That's what that usually means.
110%.
and the Ravens have now 4 guys, including Harmon, who are certified free safeties on the team. Yeah. And I think Darryl Worley is a guy who's very interesting, probably could be a free safety at some point. He just doesn't have a lot of experience with it, after all his years at corner. But he's a guy who maybe could as well. But the amount of experience in that room, and the guy we had, my special hope is that Jeremy Lucien develops into a real ball player. Very, very smart guy. Looks like he could really pick up the defense. Almost has had no experience with safety. There's not any better place for him to be than sitting on the practice squad for the Baltimore Ravens, getting to go to those same meetings with Williams and Stone and Hamilton. Hamilton's picked up things very quickly, and Duron Harmon all at the same time.
Yeah. I think, honestly, a guy like him being available is because a lot of teams don't value safety play at this moment. I think a lot of teams see the value in corners right now, and I think they're behind the times.
I agree with you on that they certainly don't want to pay for safety talent, but the reason why I was surprised is he's a vet min guy. He came to the Ravens for nothing. And not only that, he came to the Ravens, to join their practice squad. And the earliest he's going to be playing is week 3, which means the salary's not guaranteed for the year. So I'm like, how did these other teams miss? I mean, if the Ravens hit on this one, if Duron Harmon gets on the field this year and performs, say, like Geno Stone does, and honestly, Harmon has been every bit as good as recently as last year, as Stone was last year. I think, it's going to be one of the really nice bargains.
Absolutely. You always find one or two during the season. There's probably one more gem out there we're going to need. Just got to figure out what it is.
Okay, Stone was also my number 2 guy, so we're up to your number 1 guy.
My number 1 guy on defense, I would say, I think it's hands down, is Jadeveon Clowney.
Okay, well, that's mine too. So we've talked about those guys at length, so I guess we don't need to do any more of it.
No.
Denard, can't tell you how much I've appreciated having this conversation with you. Always fun to talk football with you. And I knew that beforehand, but this was a great episode to talk about a lot, and even more so probably the first episode, to talk about a lot of your football experience and how that relates directly to some of the schemes that were important to the Ravens in this one. So thank you for coming on. Tell folks again where they can talk football with you.
Absolutely. You can find me on Twitter at the Fire Zone Show. You can also find me on my personal at Denard13, Denard13, on Twitter or X or whatever it is this week or next week, or if we got to pay a fee tomorrow, who knows? But ask me any questions you like. I'll be gladly to respond and, give you a different look through the eyes of a former college football player and linebacker, but also a former coach who's game planned for enough games to understand, what's it take to go in there and do some different things to make quarterbacks unhealthy and unhappy.
All right. Really appreciate you, Denard. Other folks out there, if you'd like to be on a Film Study short, hit me up. DM's always open on Twitter. You know the drill by now. And you know I'm looking to meet new people and had some great new introductions to folks this offseason. Want to have more of that. Want to develop a cadre of people that I can have on the show on a regular basis. But anyway, I'll make sure that I take your idea seriously. We talk about it, see if there's a kernel of an episode there, and hopefully we can make a show at some time during the season. Denard, thanks again for joining me.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
And we'll talk to you next time on
Excellent.
Film Study.